The bright side of addiction is recovery. Don't be quiet about your recovery. It gave you back your life. Hi, everyone. I'm Neil Scott, and if you're new to our podcast, we welcome you. And if you've been here before, welcome back. And if you're in recovery or know or love someone who is, or you simply want to know more about the recovery process, or maybe you're a bit concerned about someone you know or love who is harmfully using alcohol or any other drug, this is the podcast for you, as we carry the message of hope and the promise of recovery. And a reminder, you can find all of our podcasts at recoverycoasttocoast.org. Recent episodes have featured interviews with singer-songwriter Judy Collins, NFL veteran Thomas Hollywood Henderson, author Claudia Black, Tom Farley, the brother of the great Chris Farley, and many other prominent people in long-term recovery, plus conversations with everyday people in long-term recovery, sharing their story, their insight, and their path. In this edition of Recovery Coast to Coast, I went down into the Colorado Rockies dugout for some recovery talk and baseball talk with a dear friend, Clint Hurdle, who has been on Recovery Coast to Coast in the past, sharing his experience, strength, and hope. He's one of a very small number who've reached the World Series as a player, a coach, and a manager. But his biggest win? You guessed it, recovery. His story overflows with rigorous honesty. Here's a quick clip from today's podcast.
It was one of the hardest things I ever did. And it turned out the best thing I ever did for me, which has turned out to be the best thing I've ever done for anybody that's ever loved me. The other thing I found out once I got into recovery, once I got sober, and then for a lot of people, it proved that I was meaningful. You know, I put some time in, I got some years, because some people still don't, until you get some time, they're like, How many people had prayed for me during all those crappy days? How many people were hoping that I would get out through all those crappy days? And then they're almost on pins and needles your first year, your second year, and then they see a foundation being built. They see a lifestyle change.
My conversation with Clint Hurdle is coming up next. And later in the podcast, we'll have our last word, and it'll feature Academy Award-winning actress Jamie Lee Curtis talking about her greatest achievement. Our website is recoverycoasttocoast.org, and if you'd like to help us out financially or would know of a foundation that may be interested in underwriting part or all of our program, we'd be ever so grateful. A reminder, our email address is recoverycoasttocoast@comcast.net. We would love to hear from you. Recovery Coast to Coast is supported by Sundown M Ranch, one of America's oldest, least expensive, and what's even more important, most successful treatment programs. They're listed in Newsweek magazine's recent list of America's top treatment providers. Does everyone with an alcohol or drug problem need an inpatient treatment program? Absolutely not. For some, they can stop on their own. Very few, but I've seen some. Others, with the help of faith-based services, find sobriety. And for many, they simply find recovery in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. But when that is not enough, and remember, addictive disease is both progressive and chronic. Medical and professional treatment is essential. It could be the difference between life or death, depending on the severity. Some 500 people in the U.S. die from alcoholism every single day. Another 300 plus die from a drug overdose every single day in the U.S. Addiction is a serious medical disease that needs professional treatment. Now, that's where Sundown M Ranch comes in. They have been successfully treating alcoholism and addictive disease, for nearly 60 years. They own their own land on 30 beautiful acres in central Washington at the mouth of the Yakima River Canyon. Their staff are top-notch. They've been together for a long time, and they're passionate about the goal for each patient, long-term recovery. And they are a not-for-profit organization, which allows them to keep their rates low, some of the lowest in the country, as a matter of fact. And they're covered by most insurance companies. And if the copay after insurance is a problem, they can help find solutions to that problem. Their motto has always been, the patient is the reason that we are here. So true. Now, if you go to the website, sundown.org, you can get a lot more information, as well as see photos of their facility. It's beautiful, and it's where recovery begins. Sundown.org. Well, it's coffee and conversation time. You know, as some of you know, I also do sports media covering the Seattle Seahawks and the Seattle Mariners. As the past season was winding down, the Colorado Rockies came to town, which allowed me to spend some time with my friend Clint Hurdle, who was the bench coach for the Rockies, a team that he previously managed and took to the World Series back in 2007. Now, Clint is coming up on 27 years in recovery. We spent some time in the Rockies dugout prior to the final game of the series. He told me about his sober journey. He was ordered to outpatient treatment and had a male counselor, which he wanted. He definitely wanted. But just before the first sessions, there was a change. His male counselor had to deal with a family emergency, and he turned Clint over to a colleague, a female counselor. Her name was Carla. Well, Carla changed his life for the absolute better. He'll tell you all about it. Let's listen.
And he had to go for a family funeral and told me he would put me in charge with his associate. I said, okay, what's his name? He said, his name is Carla. I go, that's a funny name for a guy. He goes, it's not a guy, it's a woman. And I was like, well, that's not what I want. That's not who I choose. He goes, listen, Carla Mullen is your associate. You're going to meet her, or she'll let the police know that you're not showing up for work, and then they'll file a police report, and they'll come get you and put you in jail. Well, smart enough to make, okay, that's not going to work. Started meeting with this Carla Mullen, who was a blessing. She was a gift from God. She called me on every piece of my BS that I could throw at her, every reason or excuse that I could make. She had ninja skills. And she was the one that finally set me down and helped me realize that I needed to get to a point where I was comfortable being uncomfortable to work through this and understand how unmanageable my life had become and the trajectory of my life, where it was headed. And truly, I needed to come to grips with some things and make a decision. Are you an alcoholic? And if you are, what steps are you willing to take to be functional again? You know, I signed up for a court order for like 12 lessons, and they're 3-hour lessons. So it wasn't, you know, I had 12 of them, and then through that process, I signed up for 12 more.
Wow.
We got to the end of it, and I knew, okay, I had a problem. She was also the first person to introduce me to my first AA meeting where I went and got my chip. And I told her leaving, she goes, how uncomfortable was that for you? I said, Carla, it was kind of funny because about 10 minutes of sitting in an AA meeting, I realized this is the most comfortable I felt in a long time, being with a large group of people. And over the years, it's been the same thing, 26 years now sober. When I go to an AA meeting, they do know how I feel. They do know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I can listen, I can just take in, I can share, I can learn. And the beauty of it is that we drunks are everywhere. There's meetings everywhere we travel, there's meetings everywhere I go, and that's been AA has been a beautiful functional operation for me to plug into.
Talk about the importance of a sponsor. I know your first sponsor passed away, but now Tony B is still your sponsor, right?
Tony B is still my sponsor. He's in Pittsburgh. I'll be going back to see him here in about a month. I just think it's important that there's accountability outside of a group, outside of a meeting. There's somebody that you continually meet with.
Keyword accountability.
Accountability, and we continue to talk about the steps. We continue to work the steps. Tony, one of Tony's big Tony-isms is he never uses the word great. He said, you know, good is good. Good is good enough. He said, you probably at one point thought you were good at drinking, wanted to be great at it. How'd that work out for you? So doing well. I still talk to him probably at least twice a week on the phone. We work the steps. We'll go to a meeting when I'm back in Pittsburgh or two. But he was the one that stepped in the void that Joe I had left. I had Joe for so many years. It's fortunate I've had two men that I would never have handpicked. I never would have picked Carla Mullen. And all three of them turned out to be the perfect people that I needed in my life at those specific times to help me develop strength and hope.
Some would say that's a coincidence. I would say it's a God incidence.
Yeah, you call them God incidents. I call them God winks for sure.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that for me, my faith, God is my higher power. And I honor everybody that has their own higher power. I'm good with all that. But I know that God, his eyes are never off of me.
Yeah.
He's seen it all, the mess. He's taken my mess, as I shared before, he turned it into a message. He's taken all the tests I've done and turned them into a testimony. We shared some time together in Yakima.
Yeah.
At the recovery, the gala. And what a wonderful group of people there. There's people from there I still stay in touch with. Amazingly that we've connected and we still stay in touch with each other.
Nice. Yeah, that was a fun night. And you go around and you share your story because you do recover out loud. And what do you see as the difference between anonymity and secrecy?
Well, words are words, but for me, it's what I feel led to do. Secrecy was how I drank, I thought. And the funny thing is I thought it was, nobody knew I was a drunk. Everybody knew I was a drunk, right? The anonymity is not making it who I am or about me. It's about the program. But some people don't like to share. They don't want people to know they go to AA meetings. They don't want their bosses to know. They understood. I feel led in the position that I've been put in or given and blessed with, platform I have, to share my story of experience, strength, and hope. Because there's somebody out there that I know is at the same spot I was as far as being lost, being blind, being lied to, lying to themselves, telling lies to others, causing a lot of pain and strife in other people's lives. You don't mean to, that's not your intent, but that's what you do because you're so selfish and you're going to drink and you want to drink.
Yeah.
I look back now, I always had money to drink. I always had time to drink. I don't have time to drink, number one, if I wanted to, and I'm not going to waste my money on it anymore. I wasted enough.
What does recovery mean to you today, Clint?
Freedom. Freedom to be authentic, freedom to be transparent, freedom to be the best version of myself. I show up the best way I can for Carla, my wife.
Yeah.
All my three children, Ashley, Maddie, and Christian.
Christian, who retired from baseball at the age of 4.
Unbelievable, right? And he's his last year in college at the Culinary Institute of America. My son goes into a kitchen, and it was kind of like when I went on the mound back in the day in Little League. I mean, his passion is cooking. Plus, sobriety and recovery has given me the opportunity. I love that. I'm passionate about that. I had 24 hours of a struggle when he retired at the age of 4 because our backyard looked like Fenway Park. And I said, look, Carla's like, are you going to be able to get through this? I said, yeah, just give me a day. Can I have a day to internalize this? And then we ended up having a yard sale about 2 weeks later, and all the baseball gear went right out the window.
Wow.
Christian, then he chose crew, he chose karate, he chose tennis, which neutered me as a dad because I never could overcoach my kid. I never could second guess the coach. But that's where God wanted me to be.
Yeah,
He just wanted me to show up and say, hey, buddy, how'd we do today? Did we have fun? And that's recovery for me. I'm living the best available life that I can. And the other part is I'm being of service to others. I'm not so wrapped up in myself that I don't have time for anybody else.
And you have 3 wonderful children, and you have parents who are still alive. Tell the story when you were 5 years old about the expression that changed your life.
Well, it depends now.
About going outside.
Oh, yeah, the one experience was when we went outside. First time in my life, my dad, he said, hey, son, I think it was the first thing because I got a surprise for you. So I'm okay. I've been where a surprise, but most of the surprises were in the garage. This time he goes, we're going to go out in the backyard. I'm like, okay, out in the backyard. And he looked at me, he goes, you want to play catch? I looked at him, catch what? And he said, I bought a couple baseball gloves and I got a couple balls. And he said, I'd like to share something with you that I love to do. It's called baseball. That was the question, the day that actually changed my life because I'm fortunate enough that I played catch with my dad last January. He's 91. My mom has passed since we last talked. My mom passed at 89 on August 2nd. And my mother's the one that's just told me, give it everything you got every time I've ever been on the phone with her since the time I was 6 till now. But play catch. You want to play catch. And my dad and I are still playing catch. I'm still playing catch with these kids out here that are ball players. But that was the question that changed my life, and the trajectory of baseball has taken me places and given me opportunities that I couldn't have had any other way.
You said playing catch with your dad. Now is more like playing chase.
We play a lot of chase. The catch doesn't look anything, doesn't resemble anything like it used to back when we were younger.
Tell me about the importance of spirituality in your recovery.
Yeah, for me, it's 1A and 1B, or 1A and 1A. I only get one shot at this. I don't have time to have just another day anymore. I play and work for an audience of one. I do, God. And then if I feel I best serve him, I'm going to best serve my wife. I'm going to best serve my employers. I'm going to best serve these kids that are out here playing ball. My own kids. I'm not going to take things for granted. I'm not going to try and leverage situations. All the things I used to do. I kept score. I wanted to win everything. I mean, I needed, if we were going to have a friendship, I was going to get more out of it than you were from me. And by knowing that there's a God for me that cares for me, he loves me enough. I already know because he put Carla in my life. The first Carla, the second Carla, these kids, my mom and dad, you. Look, our friendship's been how long now? Close to 15 years?
Yeah, 15, 20 years.
And I'm just fortunate, and I acknowledge it, and I'm thankful to him. And I'm thankful for all the things that I had to go through, the lessons I had to learn, because I wouldn't be where I was now if it wasn't for him giving me the freedom to make choices. I didn't know I didn't have the freedom to choose the consequences of those choices, but the freedom to make choices and to learn from them.
Yeah. You're a big reader. Can you recommend some books on spirituality that you're reading or have read?
Well, there's a couple authors that I follow. John Eldredge is a Colorado author. Just if you look up Jon Eldredge, look up John Eldredge. Max Lucado is I'm a big follower of anything Max Lucado has written. There's a book called One Word that John Gordon, Dan Britton, and Jimmy Page worked for FCA, not Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, but they wrote a book called One Word, where you pick one word for the year and you tie it, make it a focus point on service for others or whatever it might be, but you make it a focus point, and a lot of that can deal or dive into spirituality along with connection with others. I did that drill with my coaches for years in Pittsburgh. We all wrote one word, what it meant to us professionally, what it meant to us personally, and we shared the balls throughout the year. But Rick Warren is another guy that I go to and I read. Pete Briscoe, just a name. Pete Briscoe is another young man that I really appreciate and read quite a bit of.
There's another author that I've really come to know and love and appreciate what he's written. His name is Clint Hurdle. He has a book called Hurdleisms. You became an author this year. What has that been like?
It's a God incidence. In your case, a God wink for me, because there was no way I was ever going to write a book. Too much work. What if they don't like it? And then I got a couple friends that were really good writers and written some nice books, and hey, why don't we co-author a book? I said, that's a brilliant idea. You do all the work. I'll share my experiences. We both get credit for it, but you'll do all the work, right? I kept saying, you'll do all the work, right? Because you've written books, right? And they're good, right? That was the plan. As it turned out, we spent 2.5 years writing a book. Dave Burchett is another good man that's written some books. One of the best books I've read was When Bad Christians Happen to Good People. He wrote the book, Dave Burchett. But we worked on a book, and then when we tried to get it published, and we couldn't get it published. We went from being mad to sad to frustrated. He said, give it one more shot. Have your good friend John Gordon read it, see what John thinks. And basically it came down to the demographic was two older white men. It didn't reach. The net wasn't big enough. Actually, one young publisher said we were male, pale, and stale. But John read the book. He goes, look, this is a good book. This may be written some other time, but this can't be your first book that your name's attached. He goes, we've known each other 15 years. I've written down things you've said, and I've kept them in a folder. I call them hurdleisms. I'm like, whoa, slow down. What are you? He goes, no, there's hurdleisms. And he gave me a few. He goes, you need to write your own book. And John, no. I gave him 5 reasons why I wasn't going to write my own book. And he goes, so you're afraid? I gave him 5 reasons why I wasn't afraid in a very different tone. And he goes, so you're really just afraid? And finally, because John is a truth teller to me, I go, yeah. He goes, you're just experiencing what everybody else who's ever thought of writing a book thinks about. Fear, rejection, embarrassment. He goes, do it. Just do it. So he put me in touch with Wiley. I had to go through this interview process. I ended up passing the interview, another interview, write an elevator script, write a 1-page. Finally, they said, yes, we're gonna write this book with you. And then I was on a team again. I had 2 different editors. I had deadlines to meet. It took me a year in totality, probably a month and a half on the front, outlining it, 9 months of writing, and then a month and a half closing it off and finishing it up. And it's been out now since February. We're selling the book. I mean, I had all these book tours and things planned for the summer, and then I got a job, and so a lot of these things have been pushed to the off season. But the book is going very, very well. I've got a big book launch / signing opportunity in Pittsburgh at the Heinz History Center in October 26th, and we've got a few other of those events we're moving around for the season. So it has been a blessing. I think my biggest feel good is I'm getting comments from grandmas, dads, moms, kids, athletes, non-athletes. Cal Raleigh, I sent him a copy of the book. We met online on Instagram. We've become friends because he mentioned something about it. Cole Young's over there, another player I've known from his Pittsburgh days. And actually, the mental skills coach over there, Adam Panero, pitched for me. So I'm sending Adam a book over there today. So it's just been funny how this has presented an opportunity for me to share a lot of hard lessons, a lot of lessons I learned the hard way. Very vulnerable and very authentic in it. But I know there's people out there that were in the same spots I was in.
After reading the book, my first thought was, I wonder if he would ever write another book about hurdleisms on recovery.
There's a lot of thoughts floating in my mind right now because there's been a lot of spinoffs from the first book. Hurdleisms 2.0. Have you talked about recovery? Because I talk about recovery a little bit in the book. How about your testimony as well? So there's like a trident coming out of the book in 3 different areas: spirituality, recovery, and just a 2.0 version. So we'll see what flushes out in the future.
And of course, book publishing today and distribution is totally different than it was 10, 15 years ago. A lot of it's on social media. You're active on social media. Is there a connection between social media and recovery?
Well, there is. And matter of fact, there's some wonderful people, social media, making themselves available for other people that are in recovery. I've been amazed at how many people that I've connected with when I post some things, because about once a month I'll post just back from the AA meeting. Here's some thoughts. Or in the book, I've taken out some of the challenges I met through my recovery, through my alcoholism. And there's some very good sites as well. So yes, social media. If you look for bad, you find it. If you want a fist fight, you can find it. If you're looking for some help, you can find that as well.
Final thoughts on recovery from you, Clint.
At the time, it was one of the hardest things I ever did. And it turned out the best thing I ever did for me, which has turned out to be the best thing I've ever done for anybody that's ever loved me. The other thing I found out once I got into recovery, once I got sober, and then for a lot of people, it proved that I was meaningful. I put some time in, I got some years, because some people still don't, until you get some time, they're like, How many people had prayed for me during all those crappy days? How many people were hoping that I would get out through all those crappy days? And then they're almost on pins and needles your first year, your second year, and then they see a foundation being built. They see a lifestyle change. They see a different tone of voice. Your actions actually are the ones that win people back or solidify the fact that, no, he's for real. If your life's unmanageable, it's a superpower to ask for help. And I was one of those guys that, I got myself into this mess, I'll get myself out, which is jackass mentality. If I'm in a ditch, I need to call AAA. I don't need to trust me to get myself out of the ditch that I just got me into.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful life, and it goes on one day at a time. You are the interim bench coach. The season is coming to an end. You don't know what's ahead for you. Do you still dream?
Yes, I do. But then I just dream, and then I just pray. And I just said, God, thy will be done, not my will, because I know what my will, the roads that I travel down that way. I want to make sure that he wants to hear my voice. He wants to talk to me. Everybody loves a story. He's told me story. I'm telling him a story. I want to be faithful, available. want to be trustworthy, right? My wife and I are talking about, you're 68. The one thing you can't get back, she can do is time. She goes, so whatever you do next, is it worth the investment of your time? And that's all I'm trying to be a good steward of right now, is making sure that I'm honoring my family first in anything I do. And then if it works out, if I can help some others along the way, it's wonderful. I think one part of the book that makes people chuckle is the fact that I'm in a small group of men that played the game of baseball that have been to the World Series 3 different times. Once as a coach, once as a manager, and once as a player. I'm also in a very unique group that I've lost 3 times. So there's still the little 12-year-old kid that thinks, a World Series ring would be really cool. That won't define me. And it may never happen. But there's still a twinkle in my eye when I think about it. Yeah. So we'll see.
You want to manage again?
You know what? That's in God's hands as well. I think I've proved the biggest thing I'm going to walk away from this season is I could get in uniform another year, or I could not. I realize by watching these games, I'm more than capable of, I think, managing at the big league level again if somebody asks. And if that doesn't happen, I'm good. So
you almost went with Ron Washington a few years ago.
To be the bench coach, and I didn't. It was one coast to the other. I didn't think the contract was fair for the services I was going to provide and the experience I could provide. It just didn't work out. This was a completely different situation. I've worked with Bill and with Dick and with Greg Fiesel, the 3 men with Colorado, for years and years and years. And we're in a hard place. Yeah. And they asked me for help. And there's an old story that they tell, in the country, that when the storm clouds come, the cows run from the clouds because they think they'll get away from the rain of the storm quicker that way. The buffalo, they run right towards it. And they get through it much quicker. And they meet it head on. I just tell people, when I came back to Colorado, I ran to the storm.
You've been in recovery, 27 years now?
26.
What's your sober date?
My sober date's Halloween.
Oh, it's coming right up.
Yep, and that's another story.
We'll save that for another time.
Yeah.
Clint, I'm going to let you get back to your job, and I appreciate you spending a little more time with us here in Recovery Coast to Coast.
It's great to see you.
The bright side of addiction is recovery.
Amen.
Pass it on.
It's good to see you, brother.
I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with the amazing Clint Hurdle, veteran baseball manager, and also the author of a wonderful book called Hurdleisms, available wherever you find books. Clint is approaching 27 years of continuous sobriety on Halloween. Trick or treat. By the way, I want to remind listeners of this podcast that if you'd like to tell your story of recovery, regardless of the path that you've chosen, and as long as you have been in continuous recovery for a year or more, drop us a note at recoverycoasttocoast@comcast.net. Coming up next, The Last Word. Today featuring Academy Award-winning actress Jamie Lee Curtis, who has been in long-term recovery for 26 years. And she'll talk about her greatest accomplishment in just 30 seconds.
Alcohol is running your life. You want help, but can't take time away from work to get it. Where do you turn? Contact Sundown M Ranch. Sundown M Ranch outpatient programs have helped thousands recover from addiction without losing time on the job. Nationally recognized for innovative, effective, and affordable treatment programs, Sundown M Ranch will help you put your life back on track. Go to www.sundown.org to learn more.
And now, as promised, today's last word from Academy Award-winning actress Jamie Lee Curtis.
And I can tell you from my own experience that the single greatest accomplishment of my human life was arresting my addiction to opiates and alcohol.
That wraps up this edition of Recovery Coast to Coast, the national podcast. If you've enjoyed our podcast, please share it with others via social media or simply by telling a friend about it. You can find all of our podcasts at recoverycoasttocoast.org. And again, if you'd like to get in touch, I'd love to hear from you. Our email, recoverycoasttocoast@comcast.net. Also, please hit the subscribe or follow button. It's free, and you'll be notified the next time we publish a podcast. If you're considering treatment for a friend or a loved one, be sure and visit NAATP.org/AID. the Addiction Information Directory. It's the list of those treatment programs that adhere to the strict ethical guidelines. One of them, obviously, is Sundown M Ranch, but there are a lot of other ones on there as well. And join us next time for America's Voice for Recovery, Recovery Coast to Coast, the national podcast. And another shout out to our sponsoring organization, Sundown M Ranch. It's where recovery begins, sundown.org. I'm Neil Scott, reminding you to stay healthy, to live in gratitude, and to be kind to others. Remember, the bright side of addiction is recovery. Pass it on.